What's up, man? It's your boy Jay, aka The Strategy, aka Mama. There goes that man again, aka I'm so disrespectful, aka the man by many names, and you're tuning in to another episode of The Walking Dead. Let's get into it. This episode starts off where it left off. Michonne, the last episode left off with Michonne leaving the village, the governor's village, and we all kind of thought it was too easy. Well, this episode starts off with the governor sending quote-unquote assassins to kill her. Michonne, being the straight gangster she is, she knows what the governor is going to do, so she leaves a message to the four assassins that he sends to kill her, talking about go back. These four assassins were led by Merle. Merle, of course, didn't listen to that. He didn't listen to the message, and they continue on to hunt her. To make a long story short, she ends up surrounding all four assassins, which boggles my mind because it's one of her and four of them. And Merle actually has a piece of dialogue in this episode where he's like, come on, Michonne, you know, it's four of us heavily armed and it's one of you with a pig sticker. I mean, what are you gonna do? And, you know, like kind of telling her, like, come on, you're outgunned, you can't beat us. Well, I told you guys in my last review, Michonne is what I call a bad bitch, because she is a bad bitch. And as soon as he said that, she basically hops on the trees, slices one guy's head off, stabs the other one in the chest. Merle begins to shoot at her. She uses the other guy's body as a shield, basically, to absorb all the bullets. So if stabbing him in the chest with her sword didn't kill him, Merle's 16 bullets or so that hit him in the back most certainly did. Then she runs off into the woods, because by that time she can't. But as in the nick of time, Merle was able to get off at least one shot that kind of grazed her in her leg. I mean, she's not 100% able to have combat. In my personal opinion, if she was, there's no doubt in my mind that she would have killed Merle, or it would have been a pretty damn good fight at least. She runs off into the woods. Merle pursues her. So does the other guy. I don't even remember his name, but it doesn't even make sense to remember their names because he didn't live very long for me to remember his name. Shit, Merle didn't even remember his name. Anywho, he goes after her. You know, her and Merle get into a fight. He runs out, so he has to go hand in hand. And Merle actually disarmed Michonne's sword, took her sword away. And a lot of people say, well, Michonne can't fight without her sword. On the contrary, Michonne whooped Merle's ass without the sword. Like, as soon as he kicked the sword away, she went down and did like this leg sweep thing and kicked him in the face and fucked Merle up. He was actually out of it for a few minutes. Merle begins, as soon as he comes back, he sees, like, you know, four walkers coming towards him. So instead of dealing with Michonne, he has to deal with the problem at hand. So he fights the walker. Walker comes after Michonne. She makes it to her sword just in time. Swings it, splits his stomach open, and all the guts and the blood just flows out on her. And I actually found that kind of disgusting, but hey. So Merle and the other unnamed character managed to kill off the rest of the walkers, and they turn around, and lo and behold, Michonne is gone. She's a fucking ninja. And Merle is like, well, let's go back to the camp. We're done. The other unnamed character, he basically says, no, we need to go after her. She killed our friends. Merle's like, fuck that. Listen, she's wounded. She's going towards no man's land. She's eventually going to die. He's like, well, then what do we tell the governor? Merle's like, we're going to tell her we killed her. You know, she's good as dead anyway. And the guy's like, I'm not gonna lie to the governor, I want to stay and go after. Merle basically like, okay, what's that over there? Shot him in the head. And he took his gun and walked off. The scene cuts back to Rick in the prison, where basically the person who he's on the phone with says that we're in a safe place, I have to talk to the others or whatnot. And I kind of figured that, to make a long story short, we find out that the person who's Rick is talking to is nobody. There's nobody on the phone. He's hallucinating. He's talking to himself, whatnot. You know, I could go into detail of what happened, but to make a long story short, he basically talked to all the dead members in his group, well, the important ones. I think it was T-Dog, there was one on there. There was some other people, you know, but it was all the dead members in his group. So Herschel goes in and tries to consult him. He didn't want it. You know, I think Herschel kind of knew that he wasn't talking to anybody, but he was like, maybe he needs some time to snap out of it. But eventually he did. To make a long story short, Maggie and Glenn decide to go on a run to get some more supplies for the baby. And they go on their run. But while they're going on a run, I forget the name of the black guy, but the black guy, Carl and Daryl, go to basically sweep out the rest of the prison. Rick's almost damn near single-handedly did it by himself, but they go to sweep out the rest of it. And while they're doing it, you know, Daryl is basically kind of saying, you know, to Carl, I lost my mother too, and whatnot. And we see Daryl take a new light. He's not only a hardcore badass, but you know, he has a soft side to him too. I know I sound like a female when I say that, but he does, which makes me envy him even more. So Daryl is kind of explaining to Carl, and Carl is like, I'm sorry for your mom. Daryl's like, I'm sorry for your mom. To make a long story short, the black guy, who I forget his name, I'm going to remember one of these days, the black guy goes to, he sees some slippers, and he's like, oh yeah man, I need these. And Daryl's like, what the hell do you need slippers for? And the black guy, so I can relax at the end of the day. Their back was turned, and a walker approached them. To make a long story short, they saw him before he can do any damage, and they shot him. After they shot him, Daryl realized that a knife that was sticking out of his throat belonged to, guess who? Carol. And Daryl, you know, it really upset him. If you actually watch the show The Talking Dead with the host, who's not very funny, the director of the last episode said that it was a scene in there that when Daryl and Maggie were actually going in town to get supplies, it was a scene that they ended up cutting where Daryl got off the motorcycle and kind of like cried and kind of like, you know, showed some aggression over losing Carol. It ended up getting cut, but I can't wait till this season comes on Blu-ray or DVD, because I'm almost certain that scene's going to be in there. The director said that he really fought for them to keep it, but you know, it's a TV show and they end up cutting it. To make a long story short, Daryl is sitting right there with the knife of Carol's, and he's stabbing the floor, stabbing the floor, stabbing the floor, stabbing the floor, and just, you know, kind of getting mad, thinking about Carol. Now, well, at the very beginning, when Daryl, Carl, and the black guy went to go sweep out, it was like a door pushing open, and basically they thought it was a walker inside, and they were like, Daryl said, you know, we'll kill it on the way back. I don't understand the significance, but he's stabbing the floor looking at the door, and he's like, alright. I think what he was thinking is that Carol was in there as a walker. That's what he was thinking. But he finally gets the balls up. He's like, alright, I'm going to kill her. And he goes to kill her. He goes to open the door to kill what, in my personal opinion, what he thinks might be Carol. And it's Carol, but she's alive. And this is like, once again, I'm going to sound like a female, but he like raises her head up, and he like lifts her up and takes her out of the prison. And this scene reminds me of that movie, An Officer and a Gentleman, where at the end he goes and get her and lifts her up, and like he like found his girl and he's like taking her out. And I thought that was cool of Daryl, because here lately in the last couple of episodes they've really been showing the softer side of Daryl. Not only is he badass, but you know, he's, you know, he came for his girl. He found his woman. Andrea ends up fucking the governor. Enough said. Andrea ended up fucking all the bad guys. She fucked Shane last year. You know, she fucked the, I mean, of course she was gonna have sex with the governor. It was inevitable. Rick ends up coming out of his crazy spout, and you know, he ends up walking down and you know, holding his daughter. Meanwhile, Maggie and Glenn went to go get some supplies, and guess who ends up kidnapping them? Any takers? Merle. Merle ends up kidnapping Maggie and Glenn and taking them back to the governor. The whole time while he's doing this, Michonne is watching him kidnap them. So Michonne ends up going to the prison with the baby formula, and Rick ends up seeing her. Now, how she knew where the prison was, how she knew that's where they were, I have no fucking idea. But she ended up finding it anyway. Merle takes Glenn and Maggie back to the governor. Surprise, surprise, like I said, the governor's fucking Andrea. And he says, you know, he makes up some bullshit story about killing Michonne and why he couldn't get her head in her sword. And he tells him that he had 2 people from the group and they looked like they were real, so they had to be held up somewhere. And he was like, don't tell anybody or whatnot. My prediction, and that's how it is. Alright, that's gonna do it for me, man. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment, because I don't know what they're gonna do, so you leave a comment telling me what you think they're gonna do. I mean, hey, to each his own, man. So follow me on Twitter, and I'm signing off. Konnichiwa, bitches.
Yeah, shorty, you know what I'm talking about? I'm pimping these niggas out, they flipping, look like they